sometimes we turn more. All right, thank you everyone for coming. Tonight I'm going to be talking about Scriba Corners. Something that I wanted to research on my own and just learn a little bit more about the area. If I had the time, I would have liked to have created a timeline of events and shown the progression of the area, but I picked a really bad time to do this presentation because I work on campus, and the past 2 weeks I've been working quite a bit with putting out fires with the start of the semester. So it's a bit of poor planning on my part, but I think I got a decent amount of stuff in that you'll enjoy. So with that, in the very beginning. So I'm going to read a section from the history of Scriba County, and this was published in 1877 about the start of the town and some of what on at the site of where the sign is for the first log cabin. The town, it was needless to say, was named in honor of George Scriba, whose career had been described in the general history of the county. And the name was confirmed by the legislature, although at least a portion of the people were dissatisfied with it and forwarded a petition that the town should be named Boston. Needless to say, that didn't go through. Scriba was formed April 5th, 1811 from Fredericksburg, which is now Most Colony, which was then part of Oneida County. The soil here is gravelly and sandy loam, moderately fertile, pretty well supplied with stone, as we know if anybody's dug a hole here. Grain and potatoes are raised to a considerable extent. There's growing interest in the dairy business, both butter and cheese being produced, and this was obviously when it was published as 1877. So at the present, there are 3 cheese factories that are in operation. It's sufficiently well watered for all farming purposes, springs being abundant in every part, and numerous streams with small tributaries flowing both north and south. So to encourage immigration to the area and the rapid development of the countryside, land was sold to settlers here for $2 per acre. And lots were given for church buildings to religious societies that wished to build, and in some instances, mill sites were given for private mills. The families of William Burt and Hyle Stone, each consisting of husband and wife, 6 sons and 4 daughters, and each largely identified with the early interests of this town, migrated from Ovid, Seneca County in the spring of 1804 and took up large farms near the center of the town. They were each given 640 acres, and Burt took west of the Corners and Stone took his land east. The journey was made by way of Cayuga Lake, Seneca, and Oswego rivers, in a kind of vessel known as a Durham boat, which was either rowed or pushed as occasion required. Mr. Stone brought with him 3 cows, a yoke of oxen, and a few sheep, which were driven along the banks of the streams. Upon arriving at the mouth of the Oswego River, arrangements were made to stop in the old fort until the spring following, which they accordingly did. In the meantime, the above-named place for location had been selected, log house is built, and the state road cut out thus far. Burt's cabin was situated on the site now owned and occupied by David Stone. Stones on the village lot recently purchased by the Grange Society. Clearings were made and crops planted among the stumps and logs, neither plow nor drag being used. The orchard on the farm, now owned by B.C. Turner, was set out by Mr. Stone. This continued to enlarge until it became quite extensive, and being the only one for miles around, it became celebrated. The first inn was kept by Mr. Stone, who made an addition to his house in 1806, and was the only person to take responsibility of host in this vicinity for many years. His log hotel gave way in a few years to a larger one, situated on the village lot now owned by Frank Stone, which was constructed of brick made by Mr. Stone himself. This building was recently burned. Mr. Stone was a major in the War of 1812, and Mr. Burt was Scriba's first Justice of the Peace. And a note, I'm going to get into the the school in a moment, but the first post office was established January 27th, 1813, and received the name of Scriba's Post Office, which it ever since retained. Hilestone became the first postmaster, which office he held for many years. The post office was an old mail route between Oswego and Utica, and the only mail carrier for a long time was Joseph Borden, who made the journey on horseback. The first marriage was that of John Master and Elsie Baldwin in 1806, and it is believed the ceremony was performed by Reverend Samuel Baldwin, the bride's father. The early roads were rare, usually consisting of a large footpath at first, but keeping range with the advance of other improvements. The first one in this town was the Old State Road, the main thoroughfare from Oswego to Utica, which became passable as early as 1812. At this time, it ran north from Scriba Corners and then east on Mill Road. It has since been used as a plank road, which is 1887. Orrin Stone and Aaron Parkhurst kept the first store in 1819. It was situated a short distance from the Log Tavern, and for at least 25 years was the only store in town. It is a small frame building, the first in the vicinity, 1 story in height, and a pocket concern as it had been termed in every respect. So, it's a little bit of the history of the beginning of the town. This, of course, is the sign that's down there marking the spot. This is the memorial that was set up in May 31st, 1986. The Veterans Memorial for Major Jehiel Stone. And this is his grave site up on hillside. So, now we'll talk a little bit about the schools. So the first school was west of the intersection and was made in 1807. It was kept by Mr. Edgecombe, who lived there with his wife and 2 children, and he taught there for 2 summers. It was a 5 rows of bench seats, so it was a pretty small school. In 1809, it was relocated to Creamery Road, and now could accommodate maybe 60 pupils, according to the records. And then that one was replaced again in 1872, purchased from Hale Stone, grandson of Major Jehiel Stone, to District 10 for $126. Because of its size and location, it hosted the Regents exams for the whole township. So,
My mother went there for her regents, she said.
oh yeah?
Mm-hmm.
When it consolidated with Oswego in 1956, it sold to Snyder Hofstadter American Legion Post for $1 and then fell in disrepute.
I took Regents there.
You did too? Mm-hmm.
Me too, I took Regents there.
Yeah. So this is the second schoolhouse.
Legion or so.
This was undated and did not have names on it. So the first one was west. This was the first one that was on Creamery Road. And this next picture is the second.
Is this the same school that Mrs. Davies taught at?
I believe so.
Yes.
Mhm.
I have a story about her.
Oh, okay.
So,
Oh, okay.
Dan, do we know by any chance what year these pictures were taken? Probably
no,
not.
no
Okay.
year, no identification was given on this one. That's a little bit better picture of the structure. Yeah, the ones that I do have years and names for, I'll note at the bottom. If they
Okay.
don't have them, there wasn't any that came with the photo.
Okay.
So, so it was the only 2-room schoolhouse in the county of Oswego, this particular one, and had chemical toilets, so that made it something for its day. I'm going to talk about a couple of stories actually. The first one being from Raymond Powers, who's a student at the district, and he used to do janitor duties for the schoolhouse. So his school days started with a mile walk, which the old timers called Shanksmere, from his home on Clark's Corners Road. He was hired to do janitorial duties consisting of hauling in wood for the cast iron stove, start the fire to have the two-room school warmed before the teacher and his classmates arrived. He also had to carry 2 pairs of pails of fresh water daily from a local grocery store, Grange, which would be the store. And that'd be drinking water for the classrooms. One room held school for grades 1 through 4. The second room was for grades 5 through 8. 1 tip cup was used by each pail for everyone to drink from. There were no concerns about passing germs in these days. Ray was paid $2 a month for his daily chores. He recites, "I was living high on the hog." There's a note that the store, Grange building, where he would visit was run by the Hutchison family and had been raised by the time that this record was taken. There's also a couple of great stories from, I don't know, does anyone know Richard Taylor? Okay. So, these are his stories and recollections from School District 10. My dad, Alonzo Charles Taylor, was born in 1917. I guess he'd started at School District 10 about 1922 or 23. Julia Davies was his teacher, and he said she was young and just out of school and quite attractive. He didn't have too much to say about school, however. He did relate a couple of stories about Dutch Whitlock, the truant officer. It seemed on a day in April or May it was quite warm, and some of the boys decided they weren't going back to school after lunch break. They were going for a swim up at the gravel bed to cool off. Well, they did, and shortly Dutch Whitlock showed up in his horse and buggy, and he's hollering at them to get out of the water and go back to school. They didn't. They just stood out there hoping he couldn't recognize them and tell their parents. So after a while, Dutch decided to go in after them. The water is only about 3 feet deep, so he drives the buggy right in and gets stuck. Well, now the boys get out and leave, and Dad said somebody must have come along after a while and helped him out because he wasn't moving when we left. Another story about Dutch, which he would neither confirm nor deny being a part of, happened on one Halloween. Somebody or somebodies, most likely plural, took Dutch's buggy apart and reassembled it astraddle the peak of the schoolhouse. Nobody worried about the truant officer for a few days until he managed to round up some help to get it down. He also heard some rumors about the bell being balanced upside down and filled with water, or a dead skunk. But that might be hearsay. One other story from Richard. Larry King was in 6th grade and sat on the desk right in front of him. The 6th grade had been learning about fractions, and there was a test this particular morning. After Mrs. Davies finished marking the paper, she looked up and said, "Larry, get your math book out and bring it up here." So he found his workbook and walked up to the front. She said, "Open up to page 31 and put it on the floor." So he gave her a funny look, and she said, "Please put it on the floor." So when he bent over to put it on the floor, she grabbed him by the ankles and jerked him upside down and said, "Do you know what inverted means now, Larry?" I don't know about Larry, but I never forgot to invert and multiply after that.
That's my twin brother that you're talking about.
Oh, really? Does that sound like...
Yes, I know the story.
So, I found quite a few stories and recollections from people about the district and how they had fond memories of it. A lot of them talked about the yearly picnic they'd take down to the creek for a picnic. And sometimes if the water was high enough, they'd go for rowboat rides with the teachers. So, and there's quite a few stories of students falling in the water, be it from a dare or just by accident. And the teachers at the time not sending the kids home, but rather having their clothes up next to the stove and wearing the teacher's jacket while their clothes dried. So it's a pretty fun memories to read about the place. So. And there's some that I'm not going over, but if you want to take a look at them, I'm leaving them up here with some of the other documents. Okay, now I'm going to get into the churches in the area. The Methodist Church owes its confirmation to William Kilburn, Reverend Bruce Holmes. Commenced a series of revivals in 1841, which resulted in the organization of the present society, of which he became the first pastor. And the first 7 members were William and Margaret Kilburn, Mr. and Mrs. Isaac Sewell, Mr. and Mrs. Knight, and Mrs. James Adams. First legally organized January 31st, 1853, with Stephen Fitch, Perry Warden, Marcus Fish, Francis Stone, and C.W. Hobson as trustees. During that year, the building was erected. Before that, the meetings were at the schoolhouse. So wooden structure with a basement and gallery. This is from a local article. And in connection with the society, owns a frame parsonage, the entire property being valued at $3,000. Church was built under pastorate of Reverend M.M. Rice, and was sold in 1946, taken down and moved to Cognoy, which is a story that associated with that I'll tell you in a moment. But here's the church. It's an undated photo. I'm not sure. This one's been in a few things in Charlie's office, so many of you might have seen it. But this is an article about the church choir, and this is from October 3rd, 1909. And actually, this, I thought it's from the same article, but it's 2 different photos. It's good. It's like this one, they're both looking down at this, and then the second one, they're looking at the camera. So 2 different photos of the same occasion. So, and in the photo, Georgiana Baxter, Corinne Simpson, Hazel Jones, Samuel Walkup, who was the choir director, and Grace Cornell, Helen Walkup, Ethel Cornell, and Jeanette Jones. So this was a photo of the 1909 Busy Bees from the Methodist Church. I don't know anything about the Busy Bees, I just found the photo.
Does anyone know anything about the Busy Bees? No? No one ever heard?
No. So, I figured I would see if this church still existed. So I looked up the Methodist church in Cognoy and found one, and contacted the pastor and asked if this was in fact the one from Scriba, and he said yes.
Oh, yay!
So did you hear something about it burning down, Charlie?
Yes, it actually did burn down, and this is a replacement.
Oh, it's the replacement. No. Well, he didn't tell me that. I asked him if he'd give me any other details, but all I got was a yes when I asked. So that's what it looks like, if that's any part of the original structure. So, all right. So, besides the Methodist Church, on the other side of that is the Baptist Church, and that came together in 1883, and they held services in the Village Hall. It was organized by Reverend Crafty. During the pastorate of Reverend W.P. Omens, the church and parsonage was erected and dedicated on December 6, 1887. Cost was $3,600, but the entire property was valued at $5,000. There are about 75 members and 60 members of the Sunday school contingent, of which A. Whittemore was superintendent. Deacons were Harvey Burt, Daniel Powers, and Fred Waugh. Trustees George Stone, Delbert Stone, and Daniel Powers. Clerk Charles Yu, and treasurer A. Whittemore. So, and actually, David brought in, do you know where it came from in the house?
Yeah, when I was replacing windows upstairs, they were manufactured windows.
Yeah.
And it's in Charlie's book, some of that information, which actually came from this is kind of fun. It was a composition book, one of those speckled deals. It was from the 1870s or so. Some farmer kept track of his stuff, but in the back of it, it was around long enough. They reversed the thing and kept track of it, the church building and stuff. That's where some of that information comes from.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the house was built in 1889 according to all that records.
Okay.
And the window upstairs, the casing, when I took the casing out to put new windows in, that's where the signature was on the wall inside. So he wrote it on there before they put the casing in.
Oh, wow. Was it the window that's facing the road? Do you know?
Facing the church.
Facing the church.
Upstairs window, front window facing the church.
So his signature is on this piece of wood from the window frame. So thanks for bringing that in. And this is the current photo. I don't have an older photo of it. And this is a picture of the altar. There's also, let me see, I can't remember the name of them. They had a newsletter called the Scriba Stars and Stripes. And I have a June 1896 version of it and a May 1897. So if anybody wants to
Okay.
read about these, they talk a little bit about the town and about some of the stuff going on at the church. So. Okay. So this brings me to Dave's house. So, parsonage, you said 37 years you've been there?
Yeah.
Okay. And you shared with me memories of parades coming through and people parking in your front yard and taking up with chairs and watching the parade.
So the fireman's parade.
Yeah. And so let's see. It says, I found an article that said September 11th, 1889. Work started on the foundation of the building by Richard Arnold. And the rest of the structure was built by Aristus Stone of Lansing. And the plan was suggested by J.S. Turner, who gave $200 towards the completion of the building. And the Ladies Benevolent Society paid the rest.
I want to tell you, my son today, when I told him I was coming here,
Yeah.
he told me he stood over where the store was, where there was the railing. There was a cement abutment and a railing on it, and watched the parades come up and turn down the thing. So that area by the
Was
church
the hot spot
was a
the
hot
place
spot.
to be for the parade? So, thanks for letting me take some photos.
That window that shows on the left side there, that's the
That's the
one
one,
where the
the board came.
signature was found, yeah.
So, this is the original portion of the house. And then this part and this part were,
The part that sticks out, that's part of the original, and then the
Okay.
part that you're pointing at, that's where the three windows are, that's new-ish. It's 30-something years old.
okay,
Still there.
yep. So, look in the back. This is on the west side, looking towards the road. And I really should have got a shot from your house from there because it's really a cool picture. I don't know why I didn't take one.
I've taken a few.
Really?
Can I ask a question? You have a little tiny house in the back. What is that?
Summer kitchen.
Summer kitchen. Oh, okay. Very good.
How old is that?
30-something, I don't remember exactly.
Did you build it?
Yeah,
Oh.
when I moved there were no outbuildings. In
Oh.
fact, my grandmother said, that's an interesting place to live, but there's no outbuildings. How are you gonna farm that? So I've been building outbuildings ever since.
It's a good New Englander there.
You fit quite a bit of farming in there, if I must say. So,
See, there's your father.
I want to talk about the fire barn. I found quite a bit of information on their website for this, and I talked to someone there through Facebook to confirm some of it. January 1949, the Certificate of Corporation was issued by New York, and 50 charter members had a meeting to adopt a constitution and bylaws and to elect the officers. These are some of the officers and board members. President Ernest Richardson, Vice President Walter Jones, Secretary George Daly, Treasurer Oscar Cronk, Chief Conley Lewis, Assistant Chief Joseph O'Connor, Engineer Kenneth Jones, and Assistant Engineer William McDermott. Land was purchased the same year. A new fire truck, a used truck with a 1,200 gallon tank was acquired with a siren and additional equipment for $11,000. I don't know if any of you are familiar with what the current costs of fire trucks are, but it's nowhere near that, so it's into the six figures, I believe. The building was finished in 1950 and was built by the members. Land was purchased for field day activities, and the money raised by selling bonds, holding raffles, bingo, dances, clam bakes, dinners, scrap drives, and donations. And a pickup truck and ambulance were donated. And there was an addition built in 1971 to house equipment and vehicles. I don't know if there's anything, I know you two are active, if there's anything else you want to add to this, but.
Well, they had dances, didn't they, Ray?
They did.
Yeah. He helped, they helped, Ray helped take tickets and clean up afterwards at the dancing. 1950 was the year I was married. I came home from my honeymoon and went to a square dance, first dance they had.
Oh, yeah? So here's the shot of it. There wasn't a date on it, but if this is the structure that was in 71, is that correct? Okay, then this would be after that.
I remember going to Rick and Marilyn Baker's wedding reception there about 30-some years ago.
Right.
Was that property owned by Whitlock? Ray? The first fire barn property?
I don't,
don't think so.
yeah, I didn't see who they
An
bought.
apple dryer there once, but
Yeah, by the Simpsons.
I know a little bit about, well, I know a lot about the whole building, but that building. Especially that addition, I built that, so.
Alright.
Hmm.
Did you help build the original structure?
Some,
A
but,
little bit?
Frank LaFave laid the rocks, and he thought he was a mason, but that's not. And, one of the back walls was caving in. My father went down there and cut holes in the floor and put vertical I-beams and bolted it through the lintel that's poured around the top of the block.
Wasn't there, Wallace lived in a house on that property right there next to it?
Ray Wallace lived
That
next door
house?
to it.
No, that was.
That's not it?
That
That was
was
Gilbert's house.
Mm. Okay. You're talking about on
Goes,
the
yeah.
other way?
So that's where the field days were held, right? In
Yeah.
the back there. Okay.
Ray helped build those.
When did those end? Was it in the 80s, mid 80s?
every year when they started it. The first field day they had, I remember, I was in the Army. My mother wrote me about it. She was president of the auxiliary.
Yeah.
And they had, this guy's father was a justice of peace, and he lined up somebody to have a wedding there that first field day. I don't
Oh,
know, men remember that, but,
Wow.
and they served, mother said, over 400 ham dinners there that day.
Wow.
They had great crowds, and didn't have any facilities, didn't have a kitchen or anything much, but they somehow or other they did it. People, for some reason or other, want to see people get married, so there's a lot of people there.
So after that became the rec center. I spent quite a bit of time there as a kid, so they had a basketball court upstairs, and they had two weight rooms. Before they made one in the addition, there was one inside the original part of the building, and then they expanded it to be out in the garage. And then in the original part of the building, there was a commons area that had couches and chairs and air hockey tables and pool tables. And even after, when it became this, they still hosted events there and classes upstairs. I was a member of a few of the basketball leagues there, and actually I played, I think it was 1992 to 96 we played there, so
and my kids attended playgroup there too. That was
Alright.
pretty popular in the 90s.
yeah, they had movie night there too, and remember they had dog
Mhm.
obedience classes upstairs.
Oh, yeah, I took my dog there for that too.
Oh, really?
Yep.
So after that, it went up for auction, and Jim, the owner, who's been owner of the company for 28 years, bought it at auction in the fall of 2015. Remodeled the top floor, added another level to it, which I got a hold of him and went in and took some photos. I'll show you. Did quite a bit of work to the building. You wouldn't know it if you'd seen it before. And they left the flooring from the upstairs there. So he said he just buffed it out and it came out pretty nice. So this is an outside shot before they moved into the building.
You showed the town up. The town couldn't keep the building.
Yeah.
It was condemned and moldy and everything, and they couldn't keep it. And when Jim got a hold of it, he hired a fellow to put the drain along the upside and
Yeah.
fix it all up nice.
Yeah, he did a lot of work with it. Said he put way more into it than what he paid for it.
Well, I expect he only paid, well, his bid was 30,000.
Yeah.
300 or something, plus 10%, so.
Yeah.
Ooh, wow.
So this is the hallway walking in through the doors that are out on 104.
Wow.
Yeah, so just one of the back offices. This is Jim's office. Conference room. And here's the floor. Said he really did very little work to the floor and it came out nice.
Kenny Woodland put that floor down.
Really? Was that original to the building, 1950?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's another shot from the front. There's the reception area.
Yeah, I remember square dancing right there.
We We used to have Cub Scout and Boy Scout events there too.
Yeah. I've got a few scars from playing basketball up there, so the walls were not forgiving.
Yeah.
So, since there's a high ceiling in there, he built a second level, and this is that, and he uses it mainly for storage. So, and these windows are not original to the building. So, that's the view out front. So this is downstairs. There really wasn't much of anything done down there, really, besides a bit of cleanup. This door here is the staircase going upstairs. So if you remember what that area looked like, it's all inventory and shelves now. So this is the first garage, so the step level down from where the office area is. So this, when it was the rec center, the first workout room was on this side, and then the tables and couches were over on this side. And that's a view out on Creamery. And this is the addition. So you go down into the second part, and this is facing north. And that area over there was where the new gym was put into the rec center. And this is facing the bay doors towards Creamery. So he's got quite a bit of stuff in there. Here's the view from the exterior on the west side. And there's also, this is new to the building, over this area right here where the metal roof is. That's another storage area that he showed me. It doesn't have a lot in it, but that's something they built onto it. So that's it for that building. All right, I don't have a lot of information on the apple dryers. I've got a few photos to show you. There's two that I know of. The one that's where the barn is, and then one up halfway up the hill, which was Warden's. But there's a mention of a third one, and I couldn't find it in any of the maps. So, if any of you know, you can fill me in, but I couldn't find it.
No, you said where the barn is. What barn?
The fire barn.
Fire
the
barn?
old
Oh,
fire
okay,
barn.
that was one. Okay.
Yep. So that was Simpson. I think someone can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it was listed as being run by Turner, or being owned by Turner, but run by Simpson.
I believe there were two.
Were there two in that spot? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's one up on 104 and then one back next to it?
They right next to each other?
No, there were two on 104 and one on the Clark's Corners Road.
Okay,
Still stands,
right,
slope property.
right. Okay. So, this is a photo from 1912 of the Simpsons dryer, and I'm pretty sure that's the one is where the old fire barn is. According to the maps that I have, which I'll show you later. There's another photo of the crew there. This one doesn't have a date on it.
That must be before women wore pants, right?
Yeah.
Except for Dr. Mary Walker.
So then this was labeled as Bert Turner's dryer, so this was the other one that was nearby to Simpson's. Another photo of the workers. And this is from 1900, also Bert Turner, and I believe he is this gentleman. This is the Joseph Warden dryer. This is the one that's up on Clocks Corners. And that building's still there, miraculously.
So that's
That's
up there?
Slow?
Yep.
Really?
Oh, that's where Slobes lived, right here on the corner?
It would be, yeah, the photo isn't very good. They're down here, that house, and this is the barn that's up farther on the road.
Oh, very cool. Look at them sitting up on the,
Yeah.
way up on the top there.
I
My
know.
goodness.
That looks safe. Yeah, see, there's
Okay.
That's what it looks like.
Oh, very cool. I
barely
think-
standing, but it's
Yeah.
still. Okay. So this is something that you had asked me about, and I found a lot of information about the Oddfellows, but I didn't learn too much information about the building, so if anyone wants to fill me in on this, you are more than welcome to as well. It was a store, but I don't know if Barlow owned the store across the road, correct? This wasn't Barlow's.
No.
Okay. Might have been owned by a Stone. I'm not sure. I couldn't find that anywhere. But
Do you know anything about it, Ray? No?
so this is I think this is 90s. Before the windows were boarded and the front porch was
Oh, wow.
My mother went to Rebecca's there.
really.
And so didn't Kathy's grandmother.
There's lots of records, and Charlie has lots of records from the Rebecca Club.
Yeah.
I could have included quite a bit, and this is it now.
Hmm. And who owns it now? Do we know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
I
I've seen him putting mattresses in there.
But not recently, right?
No,
Not in the
it was
last
a
few
while ago.
years, so.
No,
Like a
ivy's
decade.
growing over the door now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He still does.
Yep.
Oh, does he?
I used to see him pulling stuff.
Yeah, you used to have the truck out front,
Yeah.
putting stuff in. And,
Oh.
I've seen him less and less. the last couple of years.
Yeah, after the truck just about ran through it,
Yeah.
about
Yeah,
2 or 3,
really.
4 years ago, was
That was
that?
an
Yeah.
exciting day at Scriba.
Wow.
Yeah, I bet you there was 40 of us in the park across the road watching that.
Right.
The
Yeah,
cops
for
came over and
hours.
said, "What are you guys all here for?" We said, "We live
We live
here."
This is great
And they just
downtown
shook their head.
Scriba.
Yeah. This is our excitement for the decade.
For a while, the town board did meet in that building.
Oh yeah?
That's very interesting. When they finally abandoned the Oddfellows Hall, and they were emptying out the building, what they found in more or less a chimney hole in the upper story, the first minute book of the town,
Wow.
which was dispatched off to Albany, of course,
Oh.
but it
Oh.
has subsequently been returned and is in the vault now.
Oh,
But that is
wonderful.
the earliest record of town board meetings.
Very
Wow.
nice.
Very cool.
Charlie, do you know when that building was sold?
I don't actually,
When were the meetings there?
I don't know that either. I have as much information as Dan
I was
has.
gonna say, I went through Charlie's information.
That's in the 50s, his parents bought it. Wow.
There's a few letters to the national organization about dissolving the charter, but there's no like solid date of when. And here's one of their membership forms from a Howard Davis in this September 28th of 1942.
Like the name of the ledge. Who's name? Rebecca Ledge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, where'd they get that from? I wonder.
It's a secret.
There's Claire Giles signed it. You see that?
Oh. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh.
who signed it?
Claire Giles.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. $3.
Mm. There's one of the more colorful things I found in the archive. Alright, so the one picture I have of your house.
Well, let's see it.
Ta-da!
Okay.
So,
What does that sign say right there?
Century House?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was named that even when Aldrich's moved there.
Really?
And they moved there in the 60s.
Is it 1840, the house?
1850 to 52.
Yeah, okay.
It was built, I believe.
I found an article in Charlie's office about how the way that the bricks were done is something that's unique. The colors. So,
And Holly, when you put the Christmas tree in that window right there with the white lights, it looks gorgeous driving by. Oh, white lights. I like the white lights.
He had colored lights last year.
Oh, well, colored lights are nice, but
so did you say you brought some photos?
I did bring a few photos of the house, and actually I brought a photo of Benjamin Coturner, who built the house.
oh, wonderful.
I can put him up on the table afterwards, but he's quite the dude.
Very good.
And
I'll
Holly
video
has
pictures of
agreed next year to present a program on the house and the families that have lived in it.
Yay.
Well, you didn't tell me the families that.
Well,
I'll do some work on that, but yeah.
That sounds wonderful. Good.
So, thank you for filling in my blank.
So you know, I'll add to it.
Okay.
She's looking to do a meeting with everybody there. To
At
the
the
downs-
house.
At the house for the downstairs.
Oh.
Because it has been maintained, the first floor.
Oh. When?
Yeah.
I can't wait.
I don't know yet. Next meeting. Share that with you.
He said August, I think August.
Look forward to that one. Wow.
could be August,
Very nice.
whenever. When the presenter wants to present, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the
Yeah,
slots
yeah.
are all open at this point.
You want the nicer weather.
It's one step to drafter, it's the second one to try and set a date.
Well, I will say, we plan to put the house on the market next summer, so, we might wanna do it earlier in case. it
I was
Okay.
gonna
goes
say, you
south.
might be able to, yeah, book a seller. Open house.
Maybe when the Christmas tree's up.
Just leave it up.
Yeah, my daughter is looking for a house soon. She might she might be interested.
All right. That one for you. With a lot of history.
She would love that.
Alright, I only have a couple,
You still have the tartan and the kitchen floor?
photos of the slope house.
The carpet? No.
I
That
believe,
is the
Oh,
Slobe
yes.
house?
yes,
That's there now?
yeah, I think this is the earliest one, these weren't dated, but this one,
It really was lovely, it sounds.
there's just the windows, and the next one I have, there's
Oh, yes.
that part, I believe that came after, so. And that's the house.
Does anyone live there right now?
I think so, there's lights on and
Okay.
there's a car in the back, so I'm
I
assuming
met her,
so.
actually, I met her during the accident.
Oh, really? Did they come out during the accident?
That's the first time I ever met them and the next house up.
Oh.
Everybody.
Good way to meet your neighbors. So, I don't have any information, I have those photos. This is during the winter, and then it's a little different when in the summertime. All right, I don't have a lot of information about the store. There's a few dates of families that were in there, but I believe from the accounts that I read from the former students of District 10, the last family that ran it was Hutchinson, unless someone wants to correct me.
I think,
That's not right.
No, someone else ran it after Hutchinson?
Billy's grandfather ran it first as a store, didn't he?
Yeah, Chubby,
Billy
Yeah.
Brennan, Chubb Davis
Chubb Davis.
He was the last one.
had a store
Okay.
there, and he sold
Yeah,
it to Hutchinson.
they were the early 50s, I think, according to the, so.
He was in there
Yes.
You're right.
when my mother was a child,
Yes,
and he worked in Syracuse, and my grandmother's was up overlooking, and he'd come back on the weekend. And the second time was, he was back there, and as you said, in the fifties, I guess, I wouldn't know when. He stayed there all the time, and it
And did he
Main
run-
gig.
was I would call it his hobby.
did he run the one in Oswego?
He did.
So,
He turned that over to my father,
Yes.
and he didn't do anything, he tried to be a farmer, raise raspberries.
Mm.
And he didn't like that too well, I think, because it didn't come out very well, it didn't sell well or something.
Ann Hutchison did a program on that.
oh, really?
Yeah,
One time,
yeah,
yes.
Oh, nice.
You
And it was
remember, Mark,
interesting
you
when they
remember her
told
telling
about
they was the ones that got the call when there was a fire.
Fire.
Yeah, he had to go over and push the button.
And then they'd have to run over to the fire barn and push the button to make the thing go around.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah, my
Yeah.
grandfather did that.
Yeah, it was a good program.
make
You
sure you
could
get
buy
everybody on
anything in the
videotape
store,
here.
though. It was, penny candy was great.
There's a story of a girl that went there before she went to school and bought an orange soda, and with the 2 cents she'd get back on the deposit on her way home, she'd buy penny candy. She's like, it was a good deal. So, all right, I will remove this since it is incorrect. So,
Yeah, right.
I think this might be one of the earlier ones that
And
I
they
have.
lived in the end of it, and the store was,
No running water.
No?
right, it was at the corner where the park is now.
I guess if you
And
wanna
there
classify it as running water, you
The
can.
Grange had dances at the other
Range on the
end.
left end of it there.
Yeah.
They had dances in this building at the other
Uh,
end, on the other end?
Further end.
Was the-
And upstairs was Grange, paraphernalia when they had their meetings and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they had storage. When we were kids, we'd
You
go
get
up
it.
and look, and that storage stuff was exciting.
Yeah. Was the
That's a
post
great
office?
picture.
Yes.
That one?
Yeah.
Until 1905.
You know.
Is it?
All right, anybody know who this is? Because it wasn't marked. It's B.C. Turner, wife, and someone else. Nice hats. And in the middle is George Baker.
Was that the day the truck went in the building?
I don't know, it
This is
doesn't say.
election day in Scriba.
Election day?
Yep.
Must have been a dinner afterward.
You notice the crowd is practically all male.
Oh, yeah.
They weren't worrying about the traffic, were they?
No.
That's correct. That would be my guess.
Yeah, the cars weren't coming over the hill at
Mhm.
miles an hour and 30.
That was the Grand, was it the Grand
Grand Army of the Republic.
Republic? Yeah.
It was a big veterans organization at the end of the Civil War.
1910. And I don't know if was it a controlled burn, the building? Was it something that was planned? It looked
Yeah.
like it. And that happened in August of 1968.
Oh,
There's a few photos taken of that. You can see the houses across the road. The fire engine.
One of the houses just this side where you're looking at,
Yeah.
you're looking south was Manwaran. What was her name? Nat Manwaran?
Man.
Nat Manwaran?
It's amazing how different it looks without all
mm-hmm.
the foliage.
So some reason it looks like the houses are lower than they are now.
Yeah, yeah. I've got some old construction photos that are in this, and it's like, it looks, the grading is so different. So here's some photos of the area. So, that's the Methodist church, looking west.
It's right down the river.
That's after the Baptist church was built, and the tolls were gone long before
I'm saying, but you see the signs, it almost looks like it's
that.
coming up. It's just ahead of
These?
that where it was, the toll bridge, right? Where the
Is that where it was? That area?
Yeah. That's what they're saying, right? Right out in front of our house.
I think,
This was
I think there were more than one set of tolls too.
Yeah, I think it was every so
So many
often
miles,
miles,
yeah.
the Plank Road.
Any idea what the toll was?
No, but I know that Benjamin Coe-Turner took some friends and a ox and some James and pulled over the toll booth.
Oh, really?
Oh,
That was the end of the toll.
Wow. All right.
Because people kept taking the planks and moving them to other parts of the road to fix their part.
That's how they took care of potholes back in the day?
Yeah, first potholes,
Wow.
plank holes.
Oh.
Yeah,
So that was a little bit of snow.
Yeah, someone on the roof.
Those are the apple dryers there.
Yeah, correct.
So is
So
this,
is that true?
is this building a dryer?
Yes.
'Cause I know this one
Both
is.
of them.
Both of them.
Okay. All right, now I know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, can't quite see.
That's the range.
This is one of the construction photos.
mm-hmm.
They told me that in the wintertime, when that all drifted badly, it would, you know, blow and would lay on the road,
Right.
that each man had to come out and donate his time to shoveling the, it's the only way they got it open, they didn't have a plow or
Right.
such.
You wouldn't get through otherwise.
I think there might have even been a book where people could say they 2 hours, or, you know, I
Put their log
took
in.
4
Yeah.
hours to do the Scriba Hill.
Well, actually, it was a form of taxing. They had allocated a number of hours that they had to
Look how well that looks.
spend, depending in part on how much frontage they had on the road, actually.
Oh,
Dan, were these photos dated?
No.
New York State Highway Department.
Yeah.
Everybody using their shovel.
That's what they say happens in China. Get a little 2 inches of snow, everybody comes out of the house and sweeps it off the street. I read that someplace.
That's what it looks. It's amazing how.
It's the same picture?
Yeah. It's like. It's just. It's so weird to look at. So that's it without the construction, and that's a good shot of Rebecca Lodge. And that's one I took after I got done meeting with Jen.
You were afraid to stand in the middle of the road and get the same exact orientation.
Yeah.
Not today.
5 o'clock on a weekday.
Oh, the garage.
Yeah.
Barlow.
When did that burn? Was that about 10 or 15?
It didn't burn.
Burn.
No, that's the
They
one where,
drove, they used to
Yeah.
drive through it about every 5
Oh,
years.
that's right, yeah.
Another accident.
I forgot about that. But that was about 10 or 15 years ago, right? When I got hit by a car?
It's been hit several times.
The final blow.
The front part's different,
Yeah.
but Doug Aldrich used to keep 2 or 3 cars in there.
Really?
Cause he always wanted to do it. He bought a 75 or so Chevy Impala and kept it in there and only drove it like once a year, and he had another car that was older too. The regular car, they just kept outside across the road, but At any rate,
I was gonna say, did they get hit?
no,
No.
not to speak of, but, was that
There was
still
a,
there when you?
was the
moved in?
garage,
Yeah.
was there
Yeah,
buzzing?
the
Yeah,
guy-
the Smiths own it, but it didn't, it wasn't two-story. This is
No,
what I'm confused
the
about.
peak part is completely different. I think,
Yeah,
I think they cut it back or
I
something.
gotta, you'll see in a
Is
couple
it
older.
Yeah.
the Barlow's garage?
yes.
Yeah.
Buzzy
Feed
Barlow.
store.
Buzzy
See.
and, what's her
Now, was
name?
that also the feed store?
Yes.
There was a big hole in the floor where they would drain oil or whatever.
So I think-
Yeah, it's a
They were
pit.
working
That-
on
yeah,
fire.
that
The
building.
foot on the bottom, yeah.
And then that's your
That's
house.
not Ralph though, that's not, that's Charlie, that's the, he's the councilman, he's the.
This is
the
Scriba
police,
Corners?
And he sold the
Yep.
licenses and.
See, I said to Charlie, I'm like, I don't think that, he's like, if you look at it more, you'll realize. Cause the churches, and then this is Dave's house.
Oh, really? That's the first time I've seen it in an old picture.
And then this is the garage.
Barlow's.
And then the building that we just looked at is this one behind the Sunoco sign.
Okay.
You can kinda,
It just looks like
I
the
know,
hill
it
going
does-
up
it took
is
me
so
a while-
far
Yeah,
away.
I'm like, there's no intersection there, but that's not an intersection, those are driveways. But yeah, I know what you mean, see, that's the
Yeah.
Oh,
garage.
that's a
And
great
then that's the building that we were,
Oh, all right, so we're talking about two different buildings then.
so this is 1930.
All right, so that building is gone then.
Yeah.
All
So,
By the creek then, more towards the
Yeah.
creek, the foundation that was still there.
right. Yeah, okay.
so
That
the
makes
one on
sense.
the left is the one that,
Yeah, that's the one that
okay,
they drove
that
through
the Smiths,
periodically.
okay.
It was at least, in the
That's
time
what
I
it looks
lived there, at
like,
least twice, maybe 3 times.
Really?
I think I have most of the window casements or the sashes out behind the barn. They were tossing them when they tore it down. I said,
Oh, really?
Get
Oh,
rid of those? Yeah. Lord.
I know. I remember that. Back in the back,
hmm.
And this is one of the photos from, Manette.
Leo Minette.
Yeah,
Right, mhm.
but someone from the Slope House took this.
What is it?
White shirt.
This is, that's the general store, and this was taken from the Slope House up on top of the hill
Yeah.
in the late 50s, early 60s.
Anybody have
Yeah,
any
Is it the
why it's like
parade, you
that?
mean?
Yep.
Oh, okay, so that's, my son was talking about leaning at the store,
Yeah,
there was a railing with a, was it an abutment or something?
that's still there.
Yeah, that kind of, yeah, it's
Yeah.
still the
What
white
cars get
painted.
over that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
The 18-wheelers turn down the Creamery Road for some reason and drive over the end of that all the time.
Oh,
I saw one truck get totally hung up on it. He didn't make the corner. It
Oh.
was one of those lifted trucks.
Really?
And he went back and forth until he finally got over it and tore off down the road.
I just can't imagine this many people in that intersection.
So anyhow, why are the people gathered there?
It's
I,
a-
Fireman's
it didn't
parade, I
say,
think.
You think that's the
But-
parade?
I think
Okay.
yeah.
So that
That
would be,
makes sense, yeah.
that would be the 50s, that's,
On the car on the left, I'll probably agree there.
Yeah.
yeah, so you could maybe tell me that car.
So I have a few maps of the early area, and I apologize. I love maps, so there's a couple.
Maps are awesome.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. So this is the very beginning when it was Roosevelt's patent. I found some archives on the New York State website. And this is a little bit better one, and this is kind of neat because it's signed by Simeon DeWitt at the bottom.
Oh,
1795. This is more about Boylston's track before George Scriba made the purchase. And this talks about how the acreage is split up here. So it's kind of neat. Free ride share. And this is the Scriba patent. And up in the, actually I think I might zoom in a couple of these. Yeah, this is us. So there's the Catfish Creek.
So,
that's New Haven then, where that's 19.
19 is my,
So why is 18 not surveyed in that map? Do you know the era of the map?
Let's see, I think I might have zoomed in on that actually. Yes, I did. 1793 to 1798.
Oh, okay, the British were still there, that's why it hadn't been 96 they left. right?
Benjamin
That's
Wright.
correct.
Yeah, so, okay, that explains
Yeah.
it.
And this is a similar one without the detail. So, and this was 1794 by the same person.
Trying to get all the way down to that, please. This whole track.
Dan, are they,
Scriba.
Charlie?
Scriba Pat.
Charlie has those maps?
These I found online. There's a couple that I got from Charlie, and he might have them, but
Yes.
I found most of these online. So this shows the corners in the Scriba post office. And this one has
This river and this river.
this one has the school districts, and there's also, if you look at one of the early recounts of the settlers in Scriba, it'll talk about lots, and these are the corresponding lots that they settled, so this helped me.
It's your house.
This is one that was in Charlie's office, but I can't, it's hard to read.
Mm-hmm.
It tells who lived in certain places, right?
Yeah,
That's
there's no
right.
date on it, so I don't,
Yeah.
looks pretty early, but.
That's from the 1871 there, isn't it?
1867 maybe?
The other one, I think, was 1854.
Yeah, I got this out of your office. And this one as well.
1930s.
Yeah.
That actually came out of one of the projects of the Historical Society.
Yeah.
We looked back and they actually mapped out what they could remember from Scriba as of 1930.
Yep.
Which was certainly a neat project.
Yeah.
Oh, William Morey. Oh.
It was over to your house at that time.
That's where my mom often talks about Aunt Grace, and she married William Morey.
Where is it?
It's up in the upper left there. It would be heading up. They lived up this way,
Oh.
past.
Oh, I guess.
Yeah.
Where's
Up that way.
Herman's? I forgot about Herman's.
So these are in Charlie's office. And that's all I have.
Good job, Dan.
Very good. That was wonderful.
Thank you for helping me fill in the holes. So I brought a bunch of District 10 stuff. I don't know if anyone cares to look at. There's some pupil lists and some teacher lists and a list of all the, I didn't talk about the cemetery, but I have a document that has every person that's in the cemetery. But you're welcome to look through it if you'd like.
Thank you. I have one question.
Yes?
The house that is just across from the daycare now, I know there's a man from New Jersey that currently owns that. Do we know anything about him or
Yeah,
the place? Is he okay? Because I haven't seen him all this year.
they're, I don't know if they've completed it, but I think they're in the process of changing ownership to one of their kids.
Oh, okay. I mean, he's kept it up really nice, so I think that's awesome.
Yeah, Lowe's, John Lowe's is his name.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Yeah, they're still on Facebook. I see pictures of them periodically, but yeah, I haven't seen them since
Ah.
maybe last year.
Do you have any idea